We're going to try to do the rapid boards and try to show some data of what's going on out there. And what I'm going to do is going to be a little harsh, but I need to beg the majority to think about the information, the data we're going to show, and just prove, please, you got to stop what you're doing. You're hurting people. And the cascade may be already built in. We may now have years of really ugly, really bad, hurtful, cruel to the economy. Now look, part of my premise is that good policy is not only good for the United States, it's good for the world, it's good for growth, income inequality. After the 2017 tax reform, the Democrats came to these mics and, oh, the world's coming to an end, there's going to be a recession, none of it was true. And they knew it wasn't true. Even their own economists said it wasn't true. You had some of the greatest growth in U.S. history, some of the fastest closing of income inequality. The poor got dramatically less poor, but you also saw GDP around the world got better. And look, when I'm holding articles like this about how many may die this coming fall because of food shortages, that's not the Democrats. But the Democrats' inaction is their fault. They run this place. They run the House, they run the Senate, they run the White House. And instead, the White House, along with the Democrats here, decide, hey, let's burn some more ethanol by taking our food, our grain supply, and instead of doing the rotation and saying we need to stop this, grow soybeans, the things to get prepared, they were so worried about their next election. The idiocy of this place is they were willing to sacrifice people around the world. The cruelty that continues policy. So let's actually sort of walk through what Democrats are doing to Americans. When I'm holding boards with quotes from Jason Furman, the decline in real average hourly earnings at this point is terrible. The fastest pace of decline in 40 years. What is Jason Furman saying? He's basically saying people are getting poorer every single day. The Democrats have owned this place now for what, 16 months? Months functionally of people being poor every single day. But what does that mean? You have Republican after Republican. You notice the Democrats almost never want to talk about what they've set off. And we bring boards like this and we say, hey, do you realize your eggs are 33% more expensive? Non-durable goods, if you take the whole category, there was a number a couple days ago, the inflation number, that was almost in the 30s on non-durable. But much more grand in understanding what inflation is a lot more than you're paying 21% more for your butter. I need you to understand what inflation means to you, your rival. And the cruelty of this place not giving a damn. The cruelty of this place being us saying, oh, we're going to pretend it's the Fed's fault. Oh, it's Russia's fault, and this place isn't going to do anything. We're going to let the Federal Reserve jack up interest rates to the point where they put lots of people out of work, have that misery, and somehow Democrats think they're not going to be held responsible for what they've done. So I was trying to come up with a way to help someone understand what inflation really means to your life. Well, this is a snapshot of the Democrats' congressional calendar. I represent the Scottsdale-Phoenix area, highest inflation in the continental United States. If you are a worker in my area and you haven't had a pay raise, but you still actually do things like eat, drive, live in shelter, do you understand how many days you're now working for free? You need to think this through. You work so many days, but take a look down here. You functionally have lost almost 2 months of labor just for the inflation from the last 16 months. You think about that. If I came to you right now and said, hey, guess what? You're going to lose 41 days of your labor. You're going to work for the government. Actually, you're just going to work for the government for free, because what's the great scam? Where did this money actually go? I need you to conceptualize the value of your time that's been stripped from you. It didn't just disappear. That value functionally went to debt. It lowered the value. You've actually sort of transferred a bunch of your wealth to U.S. sovereign debt. So it's a little ethereal to process, but that's functionally what happened. So the trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of debt, this place is piled up. The Democrats found a way to tax you. They basically set off inflation. They took away a couple months of your labor, and then functionally transferred it that will pay back this trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of debt, but we'll pay it back with dollars that are worth less. You see the picture. Maybe that's the real reason the left here isn't on fire trying to save people from this misery. And it's dead serious. You can do the June 21st or since December. If you do December, particularly for my Phoenix area, and I'm the highest inflation in the continental United States, for the entire country, apparently urban Alaska, whoever knew that was a subcategory economic zone, is slightly higher than us. But if you go back to since December 2020, you've lost 1.9 months of your labor. And the reason I'm trying to chart it this way is, people go, oh, it's all, eggs are only 20% more. How many eggs are you going to eat? I need you to think about this, of how many days you're working not to feed your family anymore, not to pay your mortgage or your rent. You're basically giving it away. It's been ripped. It's been stripped away from you. And you start to think about that. If you go since June 21st, you've lost 40 days of work. Has been stripped away from you. The value, you work for 40 days for free now. If you go back to December 2020, you now work for 57 days. If you live in the Phoenix area, our inflation has been so high, you work for 57 days for free. This is what Democrat policies did to you. Tell me this isn't cruel. Do you understand what this does to the working poor? We get this great speechifying here, how the virtue signaling is great, but somehow Democrats get judged on pretty words and we get judged on what we accomplish. Look at what we accomplished after reforming the tax code. Look what we did economically for the working poor when we fixed the regulatory code. Look at the misery. Look at the misery you've set off